So you want to buy a Hellcat. Most people think this is just a loud American muscle car, a burnout machine for people who like noise. It's so much more than that. It's the most horsepower per dollar the modern world has ever sold. A 700 plus horsepower supercar killer priced like a nice truck, and it's now something nobody expected. A discontinued artifact from the last days of the gasoline engine. Subscribe now, because by the end of this, you'll understand how a working-class Dodge humiliates exotic cars costing 5 times as much, why it became the single most stolen car in the whole country, and why the roaring engine that made it a legend was deliberately killed off, and then, against all odds, dragged back from the dead. Let's start with the price, because the price is the whole miracle. A Hellcat, when it was new, started around $68,000 for the standard 707 horsepower car and climbed into the 90s for the hotter red-eye and jailbreak versions. Now stop and think about what that number buys. 700 horsepower. In a world where a 700 horsepower Ferrari or Lamborghini costs $300,000 or more, Dodge sold you the same headline number for less than a fifth of the price. The Hellcat didn't just compete with supercars, it democratized them. It put genuinely supercar humbling performance in the driveway of a schoolteacher, a plumber, a college kid with a good job and a bad idea, and it kept escalating the joke. The 707 horsepower launch car was already absurd. Then came the 797 horsepower red-eye, then the 807 horsepower superstock, and finally, in the Demon 170, a factory-built 1,025 horsepower drag car, sold through a normal dealership. Nobody had ever handed regular people this much power this casually. A 4-door family Charger with over 700 horsepower is a genuinely deranged idea, and Dodge built tens of thousands of them, because the entire philosophy was that horsepower should not be a luxury reserved for the wealthy. It should be for sale to anyone brave enough to press the pedal, and that is the entire cultural weight of this car. Every other machine in this series was about exclusivity, about being one of the few allowed in. The Hellcat is the opposite. It's the people's supercar, sold at volume, to anyone, with no allocation list and no gatekeeper. Its whole identity is that it refuses to be exclusive. Dodge built a brand it literally called the Brotherhood of Muscle, and the pitch was simple. You don't need to be rich to embarrass rich people at a stoplight. That accessibility is the product. That accessibility comes with a bill nobody warns you about, because a Hellcat is cheap to buy and shockingly expensive to live with, and the costs come at you from every direction. Start with the one that stuns every new owner: insurance. A Hellcat costs, on average, well over $2,000 a year to insure with full coverage, and for a young driver in a city, it can spiral to $8,000 or more. And there's a brutal reason for that number, which we'll get to, but the short version is that insurers see this car coming and price accordingly. Then there's fuel, because the supercharged 6.2-liter Hemi 5.8 is monstrously thirsty. It demands premium fuel, returns somewhere around 13 to 16 miles per gallon in the real world, and at wide open throttle, the throttle you bought the car to use, it drinks roughly a gallon and a half every single minute. Owners routinely spend over $3,600 a year just on gas, more than double a normal sedan. This is a car that punishes you for enjoying it in the most literal way possible. The more fun you have, the faster the tank empties. There's a dark poetry to a machine that will drain 26 gallons in under 20 minutes of hard driving. A car engineered so that its greatest pleasure and its greatest expense are the exact same act. You do not casually own a Hellcat, you feed it. And then tires, which on a 700 horsepower rear-wheel drive car are a consumable, not a fixture. Do burnouts, which the car practically begs for, and the rear tires can be gone in 2 or 3 months at $500 a set. Even a well-behaved owner replaces rubber once or twice a year, and the servicing scales with the madness. A routine oil change on synthetic runs, $150 to $250, and the big major service, with all 16 specialized spark plugs, can hit $2,500 at a dealer. A Brembo brake job can run into the thousands. The Edmunds 5-year cost to own on a Hellcat lands near $68,000, which is roughly what the car cost brand new in the first place, with something like $18,000 of that total going purely to fuel. Read that again. Over 5 years, you can spend as much running the car as you spent buying it. Now, that reason insurers panic. The Hellcat, specifically the Dodge Charger Hellcat, is the most stolen car in America, and it isn't close. According to the Highway Loss Data Institute, the Charger Hellcat had a relative theft claim frequency of over 6,000, against a couple thousand for the next worst car and just a handful for an ordinary vehicle. One HLDI executive put it bluntly: if you own a Hellcat, you better check your driveway. Think about the logic. You've built a car with a push-button start, enormous power, a massive fan base, and a body full of parts every other Hellcat owner wants. It became a target the moment it left the factory, and that theft epidemic is baked into every insurance quote you'll ever get. The numbers are almost comical in their extremity. For some model years, the Charger Hellcat was stolen at a rate more than 30 times higher than that of an ordinary car, and it topped the charts not just for how often it was taken, but for how much those thefts cost insurers. The very things that make the Hellcat special, the power, the fame, the cult following, the shared parts bin, are the exact things that made it the single most targeted car on American roads. Desirability, it turns out, cuts both ways, and the same qualities that make you want one make a thief want yours. So the honest picture so far is grim. Cheap to buy, savage to insure, brutal on fuel and tires, and a magnet for thieves. And yet, this might be the best performance bargain in the history of the automobile. Because here's the twist that changes everything about the Hellcat's economics. This car is now dead, and dead things from the muscle car world have a habit of becoming very valuable. Subscribe if breakdowns like this are why you're here, because here comes the twist. In 2023, Stellantis, Dodge's parent, ended production of the Hellcat-powered Challenger and Charger as we knew them, killing off the legendary supercharged Hemi 5.8 to comply with tightening emissions rules and a planned pivot to electric. It sent the cars off with a series of special last call editions, each with a commemorative underhood plaque, cars with names like the Black Ghost, the Super Bee, the King Daytona, and at the very top, the ultimate one, the 2023 Challenger SRT Demon 170, a 1,025 horsepower street legal drag car that runs the quarter mile in the 8-second range, hits 60 miles an hour in around 1.6 seconds, cost roughly $100,000, and was capped at just 3,000 units for the entire United States. So violent the sanctioning body banned it from official strips without a roll cage. Dodge didn't just end the muscle car, it set off a bomb on the way out. The symbolism was impossible to miss. For 60 years, American muscle had been defined by cheap, accessible, brute force power, and here was the industry putting a period on the sentence, killing the biggest, loudest, most defiant engine it had ever mass-produced right as the whole world pivoted to quiet electric motors. The Demon 170 wasn't just a fast car, it was a statement, a middle finger to the future, the internal combustion engine going out at maximum volume rather than fading away. And the collector market noticed immediately, because cars that mark the end of an era, the last of a bloodline, are exactly the machines that history tends to reward. And for a while, that made every Hellcat look like an appreciating asset. The theory was simple and seductive. The supercharged Hemi is extinct. They'll never build another, so the last ones must be modern classics. The special editions, the Demon 170, the Black Ghost, the manual transmission cars, genuinely climbed, and owners who snagged a last call car felt like geniuses. For a moment, the loudest, cheapest supercar in America looked like a garage investment, but then came the plot twist nobody in the Brotherhood saw coming. And it's a warning for anyone buying today. The backlash to killing the Hemi was so ferocious, and the electric replacement Charger so poorly received, that Stellantis reversed course. Under new leadership, the company announced the Hemi is coming back, including a supercharged Hemi in the Ram TRX, and by many accounts, a new Charger Hellcat with over 700 horsepower on the way. And the moment the extinct engine stopped being extinct, the entire investment thesis wobbled. If Dodge is going to sell you a brand new Hellcat again, the premium on the final one starts to look shaky. This is the danger of buying scarcity that a manufacturer controls. Scarcity created by a corporate decision can be uncreated by another corporate decision, and that is precisely what happened here. The people who paid big premiums for ordinary last call cars on the theory that the Hemi was gone forever are now watching the company casually announce its return. Their cars aren't worthless, far from it, but the story they paid extra for, the story of owning the last of something, is suddenly a lot less true than it was when they signed the check. This is the crucial lesson of the Hellcat as an asset, the genuinely rare, genuinely special cars, the Demon 170 capped at 3,000, the one-year-only Black Ghost, the low-mileage manuals in rare colors, those should hold, because their scarcity is real and specific. But the ordinary 707 and 717 horsepower Hellcats, the ones with a last call plaque but nothing else unusual, especially the higher mileage automatics, are the ones exposed. A commemorative plaque does not make a car a blue-chip collectible when the manufacturer just announced it's building the engine again. Scarcity only pays when it's actually scarce. Underneath all of it sits a very different business from the exotic makers in this series. Dodge never made exotic car margins on the Hellcat. The whole point was volume and accessibility, selling a lot of cars to a passionate base rather than a few cars to the ultra-rich. It made its money on the sheer number of them, on the options, on the halo the Hellcat cast over the entire Dodge lineup, making even a base Charger feel connected to something ferocious. And now, it's making money a second time, on the nostalgia, bringing back the very engine it killed because the fan revolt proved the brand was worth more alive than dead. The Hellcat's real product was never refinement or exclusivity. It was feeling, noise, and belonging, sold cheap and at scale. And that is the deepest irony of the whole story. The accountants who killed the Hemi to chase efficiency and electrification learned that they had badly underpriced the value of nostalgia and identity. The Charger and Challenger weren't just products. They were the emotional core of the Dodge brand, the reason anyone cared about the badge at all. Strip that away and you're left with an ordinary car maker. Bring it back, even at great cost, and you rebuild the one thing that made people loyal. Sometimes the loud, thirsty, impractical thing is the most valuable asset a company owns, precisely because people love it beyond reason. Time to pull it all together and answer the actual question, the only one that matters. How much does a Hellcat really cost you, and what do you get back? Let's run the math on 3 realistic versions. Option 1, the daily driven dream. You buy a used standard Hellcat for around $55,000 to $65,000 and actually drive it. Between insurance, fuel, tires, and servicing, you're realistically spending $10,000 to $15,000 a year to run it, and with the Hemi returning, the ordinary cars may soften in value rather than climb. This is not an investment, it's a pure experience purchase. 700 horsepower of pure joy that costs you real money every single mile you drive it. And for a lot of people, that trade is not only worth it, it's the entire point. They didn't buy a Hellcat to make money. They bought it to feel something, and no spreadsheet has ever captured the sound of that supercharger at full throttle. Option 2, the smart used buy. You wait, you shop carefully, and you find a well-documented, unmodified, lower mileage Hellcat from a careful owner. The critical word is unmodified, because the used market is flooded with thrashed, tuned, salvage title, and even cloned cars, and the cheapest Hellcat is almost always cheap for a reason. Hidden track damage, a blown supercharger, or a rebuilt wreck. Buy the clean, honest, documented one, pay a little more for the privilege, and you own the everyman supercar without inheriting the previous owner's burnouts, botched tunes, and hidden accident history. In this market more than almost any other, the paperwork is the car. Option 3, the collector's grail. You chase the genuinely rare stuff, a Demon 170, a black Ghost, a low mileage manual in a rare color, and you keep it stock and barely driven. These are the Hellcats with a real case for holding or climbing, because their scarcity is specific and permanent in a way a last call plaque alone is not. But you'll pay a heavy premium to get in, and you have to buy the genuinely special one and keep it pristine, because the return depends entirely on the kind of rarity the market actually respects, not on a commemorative plaque bolted under the hood of a car the factory is about to build again. So here's the verdict. Every other machine in this series sold you status through exclusivity. The Hellcat sold you the exact opposite, the thrill of the supercar, stripped of the snobbery, handed to anyone with the nerve and a tolerance for gas stations. It is the most democratic supercar ever built, and the last roar of an engine the world decided it couldn't keep, brought back only because people refused to let it die. Most cars ask what they cost you. The Hellcat answers honestly, in fuel, in tires, in insurance, and then asks the only question that ever mattered to the people who buy one. Was it worth it? For the people who bought one, who heard that engine fire up and felt the whole car shudder, the answer was always, unquestionably, yes. Subscribe, and we'll do this again next week with the next machine that costs a small fortune to feed, terrifies the people who insure it, and somehow, to the people who love it, is worth every single expensive drop.